This is Bryant with Slam. And in this week's Slam Presents, we speak with LeeAnn Ramey, contemporary artist who has her studio in the Emerson. She, through looking at her pieces, is inspired by nature in Yellowstone, and one particular thing that has inspired her is the Grand Prismatic Spring. So LeeAnn, why do you find that one geological feature so inspirational?
I would say just the scope and the magnitude is just so big and magical. It just creates a sense of wonder, and I love the colors and all the textures.
And so when you think of it, how do you translate that inspiration to a medium?
This is part of a series that I've done it's a Grand Prismatic Abstract. So it's inspired by the colors and textures found in the thermal pools in Yellowstone.
That's exactly what I saw when I looked at this. Is this something you had in your head because you've been to Yellowstone, or is this an image, or were you inspired when you saw it, that this came to you then?
It's definitely inspired by being at Yellowstone, probably a few years ago when I was with my sister, and it was the first time she'd ever been there. And we took a lot of pictures, and I don't know, I came back and just started doing like all of these small abstract Grand Prismatic, and it's just sort of evolved from there.
So you started small and you worked your way up. So how many times do you think you've done a painting around this theme, or the colors of the Grand Prismatic?
Maybe 10, 15.
And you started, like, what was, you say, the size of the first one you did?
8 by 8. In fact, like there's one over there that's that's not one of the original ones, but I just thought I'm just going to concentrate on the colors and the feeling and the textures, but not really like painting a photo exactly the way you see it.
So is it more colors or feelings? What do you think guides your hand as you paint?
Well, it definitely starts with colors, but then it just kind of takes on a life of its own. So, yeah.
How much do you see that whole finish? How much, when you look at like a canvas, even in your mind, do you see this, or do you just see like this? You see the blues and it starts to kind of radiate out.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
How much of the painting do you think is like, I am 100%, this is what I'm doing, versus like you have a starting point in your mind? How much of it is planned, you think, in your head, versus how much of it is a surprise when you start painting?
Okay, I would say 10% is planned, 90% is a surprise.
Where do you think your mind drifts first in terms of the color scheme? Is there a color it tends to see first and informs everything else? Or is it just idea to idea changes?
Well, really, I'd say the aqua, the teal aqua is probably the first thing that really jumps out at me. And then I layer and layer and splatter and drip, and to start creating that depth. So then, like from this aqua, I would get the darker colors in here to give it the depth in the center, and then I go with these coppers and golds and browns, and then which kind of turns into yellows and greens when it meets the aqua. So
do you think on this theme you tend to work from the middle out, or do you tend to more come from the outsides in?
I would say the middle out. Never really thought about it before.
That's kind of your point. Your pool just kind of echoes like a ripple. So you went from an 8 by 8 to what size is this?
This is 36 by 36.
That's 3 feet by 3 feet?
Yes.
Good. All right. I can do the math. How much was that a challenge going from a small size to a bigger size?
It's no challenge at all. I actually prefer to paint bigger. So pretty much everything I paint is, usually no smaller than 24 by 24. So, and then I just go bigger from there. So
if you had an ideal size, what would it be?
36 by 36 or 30 by 40. That's pretty much what my standard size is.
Do you prefer a square canvas versus any other, or do you like rectangles, ovals?
I went through a phase where I preferred a square, and like I made square business cards. I was doing all square paintings, and I was like, okay, this is my thing. I'm like I do all squares, but I've branched out since then.
But the square is still your go-to?
I love a square.
Do you think you always love square in life and other things? It's like shape-wise, you like stuff that was maybe a little boxier, or just the canvas is the thing that just stood out?
I think I like the square canvas because it was different than your basic, like either horizontal or vertical. So I liked the square format. But no, I would say I've always been into more organic shapes like circles and, you know, swirls and lines. And
So let painting be the square peg. What type of medium, what type of paint is this?
This is mixed media because I start with acrylic paint and I use a lot of different, like there's some silver dust in here, there's gold and copper foil. I use a lot of iridescent paints. And in other paintings I might go in with charcoal or pastels and do a lot of mark making. So, but anyway, this would be considered mixed media.
Have you always painted in mixed media?
No. When I was in college, I painted in oil, and then I took a break for a long time. I was a graphic designer for like 25 years in Nashville, and then I sort of started getting back into painting with acrylic, and then took a few workshops and like got into some mixed media stuff. But since I've been in Bozeman, like for going on 7 years, I've gotten back into oil painting. So actually, I do it all. It kind of depends on what I'm feeling like at the moment, or you know, what I'm painting.
And is mixed your favorite style right now?
No, I really don't have a favorite. I like them all. I like to experiment and have fun when I paint. So I like trying new things, and I like to play and have fun, believe it or not.
Oh no, 100%. That's like really the joy of being creative. Is not necessarily what you finish, because then you're done. But it's in the journey to get there.
Right, and to create something that you've never seen before. Like I can't take a photo and realistically copy it. And I've painted paintings where I'll sell it and somebody wants it. Like I'm getting ready to do one that sold last week. It was a bear and 2 different people wanted it. So, but every time I do it, like I can't copy my own work. So, and I can show you examples of that. I have like two different paintings of the exact same thing, and the paintings are so different. You know, it's all about how I felt that day, or you know, like I never know what I'm going to end up with when I start out.
Yeah, that's the fun. So you said you have like 10% in your mind, and then you hit the canvas and it starts to expand. How much do you think the canvas helps you frame that idea? Like you have it in your head, and then the finished picture obviously works with the canvas, but you have to take the size, maybe the color, the material. So how much do you think the canvas picks the painting?
I think the paint picks the painting. Like I never know what I'm going to end up with, and like I had a teacher once who said, "Many are called, but few are chosen." So for me, it's all about the process, and it's like not everything you paint is a finished painting. Like that's what all of that stuff is right there. So sometimes they just paint themselves, and it's just a few hours, and you're like, you have an out-of-body experience, and it's like, you know, you're just really get into it, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And then other times it's a total struggle that goes on for days. So, you know, really, I never know what's going to happen. It's always an adventure.
I write, and I get the same thing. I know conversations, or I know points, or I know something I'm trying to get across, but until I'm actually in the paper, I don't know what's going to form. And nothing is frustrating when you're like 90% there, and like some things just you can't finish. They're not a finished piece.
And sometimes you just walk away for a day and you come back and you're like, oh, that's what it needs, and then it's like 5 minutes and you're done.
Sometimes you just need to step away, take a break. When you come back, you see this thing with fresh perspective.
Right.
When did you know this was mixed media? From the beginning? Is that part of the 10%? Or again, is that something that forms organically through the process?
Well, for this particular painting that I've done, a whole series of these, I mean, I know going in that it's going to be mixed media. I'm going to use the iridescent paints, the metal dust, the golden copper leaf. You know, I know going in it's going to be mixed media, but I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out.
That is great. Any last thing that you want to say about this?
I guess the thing about this is I coat it with a thick epoxy resin, which is sort of, it's like the equivalent of 50 coats of varnish, and that really pulls in the light and lights up the whole painting and gives it that depth and perspective, but it's a real pain in the butt to work with. So that's always a challenge, because you get the painting the way you want it, and then you go to put the resin on it, and it's a gamble.
Got to stick the landing. What are you working on right here? This looks like a more 3D model of the spring.
Yeah, this one we're actually working on a tabletop, because I've had people who see the paintings and they're like, well, that would make a really cool tabletop. So this is sort of an experiment.
But it's not really your style. You don't like doing so many 3D mediums. It's more flat canvas.
Yes, mostly I paint on canvas. This is the first time I've painted on wood, and actually this was such a beautiful piece of wood. Like, I loved the grain and all of the lines in it, and I sort of hate that the paint covered that up. So I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but it's, you know, it's an experiment. It's all about just having fun, trying something new.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's a very important thing for artists to understand, that you have to sometimes figure out what you're trying to create by just experimenting.
Right.
Is this kind of a wild experiment for you, painting or creating something fully 3D? Or what is the most experiential piece you've ever created?
I mean, I've done all kinds of things. I mean, I used to do dog food cans, where
Oh, wow.
I would paint and collage on a aluminum trash can and add dog biscuits and, you know, all kinds of things. So that's probably the craziest thing I've ever done.
Because you like working in mixed medium.
I do. I like all mediums, not necessarily mixed. I mean, I'm happy with just oil paint and palette knife, or just an acrylic painting. I like to experiment with all of them.
Where do you think your ideas come from? Do they come from, you just talked about how you work on dog hands. Do you think it comes from the object itself, or when you look at a canvas that comes from there? Or is it more of a cerebral process?
I'd say it's definitely cerebral. Like, a lot of people would call it procrastination, but I like to think of it as percolating. So I take photos of everything all day, everywhere I go. I love, like, just clouds in the sky or hay bales or anything. So I look at things and I think about them, and then one day I come in and it just kind of depends on how I feel that day, what I decide to paint.
Why do you call it procrastination?
Because it takes a while. Like, people will come in here and they'll be like, LeeAnn, why aren't you painting? And I'm like, well, I have to, clean off my desk first, or pay some bills, or, but really the whole time I'm doing that, I'm still thinking about what I'm going to paint, and it's just, you just have to, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but.
You have to be patient. And a clean space is a productive space, and while it may not openly look like you're working on a finished product, you are enjoying the process to get there.
Right.
And it's like you're focused on one thing, so your mind is free to wander.
Correct, I agree with that.
So yeah, we need a better word than procrastination.
No, I call it percolating.
Oh yeah, percolating. It's good. Your idea is percolating to the surface as you're helping make sure that you have the right space in order to create it.
Right.
You have a very cool studio. As I look around, I see all these different paintings. Can you speak to the inspiration of your studio and why people should come visit it during this holiday season?
Well, I've actually only been in here, I moved in June, so this June will be 2 years. But so last year during the holidays, I decided to bring in local artists and give them a place to show their work, and then just bring in a little more variety than what I normally have in here. So normally it's just my paintings and prints and cards, but so last year I brought in like 25 local artists. This year I've brought in probably half that many, because I learned a lot last year, what people seem to like and what worked well. But like,
Yeah. Is there anything you want to show in particular?
well, I mean, I try to find like a little something for everyone, but for example, these mittens are made by, they're hand knit by Amy Ross Mohair and Wool. They're $40 and she donates all of the money to Energy Share. So, I like having her in here, gives back to the community. Then I have like paintings by Hannah Udy this year because we worked together on the Armory Kempton project and just really got to be good friends. And she's not showing her work anywhere right now, so I brought, I had to like keep after her, and she finally got the paintings out of storage and brought them in, and we sold like 5 in the first week.
Yeah, I think those are really cool. Yeah, really neat.
Yep, and then I have Alpacas of Montana, which is the largest producer of alpaca fleece in the U.S., and they're right here in Bozeman. So
I think I petted a few of their alpacas on the street.
And normally they have their big open house in October, but they weren't able to do that this year. So, and they have a huge online business, but they were, I think they were trying to help me out as a small business by allowing me to have their products in here. And they're just a great business, and I really enjoy working with them. They're really hardworking, and I mean, they have like over 80 alpacas in their, I guess, flock, and they know everyone by name and can tell you the story about everyone. It's just, it's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed that.
That is cool. So people could come here and they could buy these pieces for gifts for the holiday season?
Yep, I'm trying to have I have the alpacas, I have a jeweler from Livingston, I have a ceramicist, mittens, cards and prints. Oh, Adair Peck, she does paper mache and encaustic work. So I have all different styles and all different price points. So a little bit of, something for everyone.
And where is your studio?
I'm in Galleria Hall, Studio 110, at the Emerson.
And can people also find information about some of these artists on your website?
No, the best place to find out about what I'm doing is on my Facebook and Instagram art page, LeeAnn Ramey Art, on Facebook and Instagram.
We will put a link to that in the video.
Yeah.
That is great. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, my website is basically always under construction, so it has basic information but directs people to social media.
Yeah, find you on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Before we spoke a little bit about the Kempton Armory project, can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yes, I was very honored to be part of that. They, Carrie and Corey Lawrence, the owners of the hotel, they ended up hiring 13 different local artists. I believe it's 13, and it was just watching their vision come to fruition was a really special thing to be a part of. They really just put a lot of time and effort and thought into maintaining all of the original structure of the Armory as opposed to just tearing it down. It was their architect is Fred Wilson, so I got to spend a lot of time researching Fred Wilson and his architecture and the history in Bozeman, and then just working with all of those local artists on such a big project was really an awesome experience. So it's definitely need to go in and check out the artwork. I mean, the whole place is like a work of art. It's pretty incredible.
How long will that display be up?
They purchased all the art, so it's a permanent collection. So I have paintings in Fielding's restaurant. I have a painting similar to this one in the lobby, and then I have some floral paintings in the suites.
So did you get to take a tour of the hotel and see where all your paintings were up?
Oh yeah, many times. But I mean, the most fun was we got to go over there like several times while the hotel was under construction. So like when we delivered the paintings, we had like, I mean, it, like, I don't know, we'd go up on the roof and sit in the swimming pool that didn't have any water in it, and just, it was just fun. We did a lot of crazy things.
Just to get to see behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
of a big artwork and process. Do you have a favorite painting that's in the Armory, and where can people find that?
Well, I would say like my favorite would be the one that's similar to this in the lobby, just because, I mean, having a painting in the lobby there is like really special for me, and I'm really proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This has not been the easiest year to be creative. People have been very disrupted, and there's a lot of negative emotions going around. What's one way you've been able to stay creative during this tough time of 2020?
Well, honestly, in March when everything shut down, I went into a funk. I think everybody did, and like there was no way I could paint. I moved my studio back to my home because Emerson was pretty much shut down. I mean, even though it was open, there was nothing going on. So like I think I wallowed and worried and probably, you know, somewhat depressed for like at least a month or two. And but then I found like getting away from, you know, the news, the social media, your phone, all of those things. Sometimes I just had to like just shut it off. And then I'd say by June, when things started to open up a little bit, and I started painting again, and then it just, I don't know, the more I painted, the better I felt. But it was like for a while, I'd say I was sort of paralyzed, and like I could not make myself paint to save my life. And pretty much every creative person I've talked to felt the same way. It's like, it was like there was just like this cloud or blanket smothering you, and like you just couldn't get creative. But then I kind of had to just put that, you know, on the back burner behind me, walk away from the news, and you know, just like listen to a lot of podcasts, you know, try to do things like that would make me have a little more positive outlook, just, you know, things, just trying to be happy and not fearful. But actually, you know, getting back to painting and actually doing the work, you know, then that's, you know, once I kind of pushed myself to get started again, then it was, you know, kind of snowballed from there.
So you just kind of forced yourself to do it, and you just sat and just eventually pushing yourself through that tough time with that block, and you just kept painting. It opened back up for you?
Yes, but there was definitely a period of time where I just like could not paint, you know. I don't know, I don't really remember now. The whole thing is a blur, but I mean, it was a couple of weeks, maybe a month. But, you know, like everything shut down. I'd only had this gallery open since June, so everything was going really well through the holidays. Even I wasn't expecting to have, you know, to make a lot of money or, you know, do much after the holidays. But then everything just still kept going well, and then it was like all of a sudden, you know, mid-March, it was screeching halt, and then my whole future was like up in the air. I'm like, okay, and we had to sign our lease at the Emerson, and I was like, I don't know if I can sign a lease right now, you know, I don't know, you know, no one knew anything. So finally I just decided, you know, my husband, he said, we're not going to go bankrupt in a year by signing the lease. So just, you know, let's just do it, keep moving forward. And I'm glad I did. So I love being at the Emerson. It's like full of all kinds of creative people, writers, musicians, dancers, artists, architects. So once things kind of started opening up and I was able to come in here and, you know, move back into my studio here, and see people, I don't know, things really picked up.
You invested in yourself. You took a chance, but you believed in yourself, and so you actually put belief into practice by investing and having a studio.
Yes.
What is a lesson in there that you could teach other creatives trying to get back on their feet right now?
To put yourself out there, do the work, push through it. I mean, try not to second guess yourself, but we all, I think every artist I know, we're all our biggest critics. I know I am. And then you just kind of have to turn those voices off in your head and just get out there and do the work, show up and do the work, because, you know, I think I've improved a lot just by having a studio here and having to come to work every day and actually, you know, paint or do something. That's the only way to improve.
Develop a routine and stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm not. Like, I would like to think I have a routine. I mean, I do. I have regular hours, 11 to 5, so that's helped. You know, just showing up and being here 11 to 5 has helped me tremendously.
Yeah, you have a separation from home, and when you're here, you can do work, and when you're at home, you can do home things, and you understand that you have a distinct physical boundary, and that you get to focus on one role versus the other.
Right. Yeah.
That is great. Is there any last thing that you want to talk about in terms of pieces that you have here, any other work or gallery that might hold your work right now that you want to talk about?
Well, right now, all of my paintings are at Nordic Brewing for Sip and Slam, and they'll be there through the end of November. And I would say some of my best paintings that I've done are there. And I'm sorry they're not here right now to show you, but so I would encourage people to go over to Nordic Brewing. And I'll be at Lockhorn Cider for the month of December.
Great. Thank you, LeeAnn. Thank you so much for your time. I hope
you
you guys all learned something about creativity, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.